So, I'm going to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart because it was actually one of my most popular videos, crossed over 2 million views, where I talked about Michael Jordan and his times with the Wizards. And it was kind of an eye-opener for a lot of people because something that is fascinating to me, this is literally one of the most fascinating topics in all of NBA history to me, because it blows my mind how many people know practically nothing about how the season developed of Michael Jordan's first year with the Wizards, regardless of the fact that he's almost universally claimed to be the greatest player of all time. Like, how does that even happen? But it's crazy. People don't know, like, he had a season-ending injury 47 games into the season. And so let me kind of paint the picture a little bit and set this up before I have you all chime in, because Michael Jordan comes back to the Wizards. He was joining a lottery team. They were the second worst team in the league from a record standpoint, and they were a bottom two team in the league defensively as well. Michael Jordan was stepping down from his executive position with the Wizards with the intent of teaching these guys how to play and how to win. Well, we found out later on that was kind of a mistake, and they weren't really ready for that. Maybe they didn't have the maturity for that. Maybe Michael Jordan didn't have the leadership skills for that. That could be debated. But that was MJ's intent. It was also soon after 9/11. So it was a really nice little pick-me-up story that Michael Jordan was coming back, and a lot of people don't know this. He donated his entire salary as a player to 9/11 relief. Yep. Michael Jordan came back to play for one of the top two worst teams in the entire league for free. Okay? Talk about for the love of the game. So MJ comes back to the Wizards. This team sucks. The only big changes, he was the only big acquisition change that they had other than hiring Doug Collins as their new head coach. But if you look at the players they got, like Brendan Haywood, it was a bunch of rookies who played less than 15 minutes a game. So the team's barely changed.
They had Kwame Brown, the GOAT.
The Kwame Brown was one of those minor changes. And so they get into the season. They start the season 2-2. And then 2-9 after, I believe, a 7-game losing streak. So they start 2-9. It's rough. Everybody's like, Michael Jordan made a mistake. He shouldn't have came back, that sort of thing. Then they start to figure stuff out. They start doing better. And MJ starts hitting his groove, and he starts getting better and better as the season goes along. Another interesting development is Richard Hamilton. He's not Scottie Pippen, but he was Michael Jordan's Scottie Pippen that season. He was the second best player on their team. And Rip had actually got hurt for a big stretch of games, so he missed 6 weeks. So Michael Jordan played the first 47 games of the season before he tore his meniscus. Leading up to his meniscus tear, him and Richard Hamilton, in their last 16 games leading up to that, where they were both on the court and healthy together, they were 15-1. So if you do the math, they started the season 2-9, then they figured stuff out. And after that, they were 24-12. They were either the 5th or 6th seed in the Eastern Conference at the time Michael Jordan tore his meniscus, and they were getting much, much better. In the final 10 games, go look up Michael Jordan's final 10 games leading up to game 47.
On it.
He was averaging 30 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 6.1 assists, 1.2 steals on 47.2% shooting in the dead ball era. That's the kind of level MJ was performing at, and then he tore his meniscus. And here's why people often miss that. Because Michael Jordan played on a torn meniscus for like another 16 games, and they just were not the same. He was not the same. His numbers tanked. They just kept losing, and then eventually... Actually, it wasn't that many games. What is it, like 10 games or something like that?
A little less than that, but yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then so then they shut down his season.
Yep.
And the team ends up missing the playoffs, and now that's the narrative. That Michael Jordan came to a team and missed the playoffs, and the team sucked. But again, they were a 5th seed when the meniscus tear happened. And they were 15-1 in their last 16 games leading up to that. So my question is, what do you think about that? Is that something that you're impressed by? What do you think could have happened if Michael Jordan stayed healthy? Because there was a weak Eastern Conference at that time. This was the 01 to 02 season. The New Jersey Nets ended up making it to the finals that year. And so I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on that? I took a long time to set that up, but there's so much juicy
Nah,
context to that season.
it was so worth it. It was so worth it. Loved every second of it. Dario, no, you definitely. I took the last one. You take this one.
My first thing with that is because there was a couple things that's said there that makes Michael Jordan seem like he's the greatest person in the world, and I just need to address it, like the salary thing. So it's so great that he did that, but we all know that he did this whole thing because he thought he was gonna have ownership at the end of all of this. So
Sure.
he seemed generous, but he was doing it for other reasons.
I'm more focusing. I'm not trying to make Michael Jordan seem like I'm not trying to make Michael Jordan seem like a wonderful person. Some people will try to do it from that angle.
Yeah.
I'm more just talking about like he didn't do it necessarily for money. Like he came back to play 2 seasons because he had an itch because he loves basketball. Like that's the part that stands out to me.
Sure.
I kind of. And then
the ownership thing is a big motivator for you.
Yeah,
sure.
that was huge to me. But and then other thing, I just can't assume that Michael Jordan could have went a whole season without getting injured because he was a 38-year-old who's off his second retirement from smoking cigars and drinking beers and gambling for how many years, and then we're just gonna assume like this guy's gonna stay healthy for an entire season and dominate.
I will say, though, that injury, when he did tear his meniscus, it wasn't the type of like, oh, his body is old and breaking down. Eton Thomas fell on his leg. And so it was one of those freak accidents that could have happened to anyone. So just had to throw that out there. But like your points are still solid. But
yeah, and I'm just going to compare that to someone who actually stood in the league that whole time doing the same thing. There was a 38-year-old that played only 55 games because he was, getting old and all this other stuff. And he couldn't handle a whole season by himself being the man, and everybody like just crapped on him for it when he was playing in the league, and LeBron James, whatever. But I do my issue with this MJ thing is I don't think he goes far anyways. Like the 2 teams that he would even have to beat in order to like possibly win a championship, which I don't even think that they should be in championship talks, but he would have had to go through the Nets. In order for him to beat the Nets that year, he had to drop 48 points to beat them the first time. And then they got smoked by 60 the second game. So it's like, this is a young Nets team that's ready to go to back-to-back.
Did you say 60? Because I know that's not accurate.
The ending of the game, I thought it was like 101 something, 111.
He's pretty close, bro. He's pretty close.
He smoked his ass.
It's 111 to 60.
It is close.
Yeah.
That was one of MJ's 10-point games. And so 18 and 18, yeah. This is where they were still.
Oh my God! What a box score! Oh my God!
So that was pure dominance.
But he played. The funny thing is, he played 18 minutes, so that tells you how quickly it was over.
Yeah.
MJ said, "I'm not even. I got my 10 deuces, everybody."
Yeah. So that's my only thing is like in order for him to even win a game against them in the regular season, he had to put 48 points up. So
I don't think they're. To be clear,
playoff series.
I don't think they're beating the New Jersey Nets. I don't. Very clear. I don't think he's making it to the NBA Finals, and I don't even think that's necessarily a good thing if he did, because he would have been 6-1 because he's getting swept by the Lakers.
Facts.
And
Kobe's winning MVP that year. that one too. He's like, yo, Shaq, you need to chill out.
Kobe's pulling up 04 and 02.
Yeah, 100%. It's gonna work this time.
But here's the question. I mean, if they go to the semifinals, MJ has some great performances, and he took the second worst team in the entire league to say the semifinals in the Eastern Conference. Doesn't that completely change the narrative about MJ's comeback? I mean, that'd be crazy.
I still think they don't talk about it. I
still
think people just go, Wizards.
Yeah, that's what it should be. Yes, and that's what it should be, because that's what they do for every other year before he wins the championships. They try to act like it doesn't happen. So even if he unless he wins championships,
you're talking about 95 specifically. Like, get out of here.
I'm talking about like 91. Before 91, they try to act like all of those sweeps in the first round.
No. Don't stoop to that level. Don't stoop to that level, because Michael Jordan with a team of no other stars is not going to be beating Larry Bird and the big 3 Celtics, with that stacked roster. But I get what you're saying. MJ stands will crap on LeBron for losing to super teams, and then LeBron fans will crap on Jordan for losing to super teams.
And we act like Kobe didn't beat like a whole big three that was in their prime, all this other stuff. Well,
he had a lot more help than MJ had at that time.
I don't know, man, but like I'm just saying that Kwame Brown, Kobe had Kwame, and look what he did. He went to 06. He was damn near gonna beat the number 1 seed in the West, whatever. I don't know if Kwame was there at that time, but.
It's a shame he missed the Chicago game. I know he played them, but it's a shame he missed the Chicago game. Oh, those games were always fun.
I think it's almost impossible to assume that he'd be healthy, but even if he is healthy, I think they're max out at second round. Like, I think they lose in the second round.
That's fascinating to me. That makes that season so much more exciting. And to be fair, like I made a whole career off of talking about the very niche, detailed hidden treasures of NBA history. I'm not saying this is going to be a seismic shift in the way we view NBA history, but man, it would have been cool to see how it played out because that team was hot. That team was hot. And what's funny is Michael Jordan kind of shot himself in the foot too. Anytime he had swaying power, anytime, they talk about Le GM all that time, and anytime MJ tried to be MJ GM,
right,
he screwed it up because him and Hamilton were great together. And the thing is, Richard Hamilton, other than, Michael Jordan throwing his shoes away and kind of being a dick to him, Richard Hamilton actually did like playing with MJ. Like he looked up to MJ. You know who didn't? The guy they traded him for, Jerry Stackhouse. He hated working with MJ. So like that's the thing. You had all this success with Richard Hamilton. Then you tear your meniscus. You were literally 15-1 with Hamilton leading up to that. Then you trade him to the Pistons, where he goes on to win a championship and makes the finals a couple times. Like if they had even kept that team together, they would have been better in the second season. But MJ, because he had some sway in that, and Wes Unseld, who is now the general manager at the time, they screwed it up. And so
you want to hear a crazy take that I've said before on my podcast? Apex Greatness hasn't had a podcast come out in 2 years, but there you go.
Nice plug.
It's shameless, but whatever. I've said for a long time that I think in my heart of hearts, Michael Jordan drafted Kwame Brown because he wanted his own Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
And he wanted to prove that he could do it.
Yes.
And I think that's why Kwame Brown got endless crap from this guy and I think if they go a different direction, not that draft was super loaded, but there's a lot of different directions they could have gone to make this team even better. Like that.
Give me some names.
I wonder. I got to look at the draft. I know it's one of the worst drafts of all time, so it's a short list.
The funny thing is that you saying that, I'm like, I feel like sometimes Tyson Chandler would have been better. Yeah. I do feel like there are certain years where GMs are crapped on for like making a bad pick, and it's like, have you looked at the top 10 picks? They're all bad. Like, but this is not one of those.
Been horrible MJ though. I know, like with Kobe, but
at that point,
I just think
at that point in Powell's
Powell's too soft,
and he's definitely too soft at that point. Like MJ's not gonna be able to deal with that. Like because when
Tyson
you're at the
Chandler though would have worked.
Yeah, he's at the end of his. That would have been perfect. He would have been his enforcer. But the issue is he can't. Like he's not gonna be able to do what Shaq's doing. Like you need a post player. Like be able to work. With
but
something.
At least he could have handled them a little bit on defense. I'm not saying he could have guarded Shaq at all. But what I'm saying is like Tyson Chandler at least would be known for defense.
But here's another fascinating detail because there's another way to look at this. This is kind of MJ's fault too in a way because I mean he chose to join the second worst team in the entire league. Yes. And then the owner of the team did end up screwing him over because basically all he did was leverage Michael Jordan for money. And then the minute he was ready to step back into his executive position, he fired MJ. Yep. And MJ has since then... Yeah, no, that's dirty. Talk about a backstab move. Like,
wild.
And MJ has said if he knew how Abe Pollin felt about him and that he was going to that, he would not have played for the Wizards.
Yeah, 100%.
And now that really opens up the possibilities because if MJ knew that and he's not going to play for the Wizards, well, he still had that itch. I mean, he would have that itch. He wanted to come back and play. He talks about how he wanted to play against these young guns that they say he can't play with. So he's going to play somewhere. So in 2002, where does Michael? So actually, 2001 to 2002, where does Michael Jordan go? Does he go play with Scottie Pippen on the Portland Trail Blazers, which are still a contending team? Does he go with Phil Jackson and Kobe on the Los Angeles Lakers and replaces Rick Fox as the small forward? You know, there's several different scenarios that could have worked. Orlando Magic, he could have mentored Tracy McGrady, and also his good friend Patrick Ewing was on the team at the time. So there's a lot of different scenarios he could have gone. Rod Thorne was one of the executives for the New Jersey Nets at the time, which ended up going to the NBA Finals this year, and they had Jason Kidd on the team and Kenyon Martin and those guys, and so that would have been fascinating as well. And so, you know, again, and now he's not joining a bottom team, a bottom tier team. And so, what would you have liked to see if Michael Jordan hadn't gone to the Wizards because he knew the owner was going to screw him over?
But what about even the Celtics? Because the Celtics go to the Western Conference Finals, they lose to the Nets. Like
Eastern
you got
Conference,
Paul. Sorry, my bad. I said Western. And they lose against the Nets, and you got a young Paul Pierce. Like I could.
That'd be
I don't
cool,
know.
like mentoring Pierce, but like, man, I feel like I'd have a hard time seeing MJ playing for Boston Green. I feel like he'd have a hard time doing
funny,
it.
I had
that's
that
true.
exact same
He
thought.
hates
Sadly, I had the exact same thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he goes in 2002. I don't think he goes to the Lakers. Maybe if this was 2000, that would be a different story. But I
because
just
they
think,
needed
like,
mentorship then. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think at this point they're established. They're in the three-peat like era. Like they already know like what works, and you already got like a clear dynamic between Shaq and Kobe on kind of like when to turn things on. So I think Jordan coming in the mix would like throw that dynamic off significantly.
I don't know if he
he's
wants.
trying to be a
Yeah, I don't know if he wants to play with the Portland Trailblazers at the time. Again, they were even nicknamed the Portland Jailblazers, and you know how much Michael cares about the squeaky clean image and optics and all that. And so they were kind of seen as like a team that's constantly dealing with issues at the time. So I have a hard time seeing that. I genuinely think like he's either going to play for the Nets or he's either going to play for the Magic. Like I think one of those two teams would have been because mentoring Tracy McGrady would have been something I think he would have reveled in, and then he gets his swan song with Patrick Ewing, his longtime rival and now friend.
Yeah, I just don't know if McGrady will be able to have another star on the team. You know, it was hard for him. He wanted to be that number one guy when he left Toronto, so just gotta throw a little shade at.
Yeah,
McGrady
but they all bend the knee for MJ.
Oh, for sure.
From that era.
He's Michael Jordan.
Yeah, because even Kobe wanted to be out of Shaq's shadow, but he has talked about a couple times that he almost joined MJ because I think they all were kind of looking at it as MJ's almost done, and I can get mentored by the greatest, and then have that take my game forward for the next 10 years, And so I think McGrady would have accepted that. It's not Vince Carter,
I was just throwing shade. That's my.
There's a team that we didn't talk about that I think, and I'm going to look at the roster in a second, but I'm doing this for dramatic effect. The Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that I'm looking at, and I'm just like, dude, KG fits that personality perfect. And he even though he's 12th in MVP voting, 21, 12, and 5 with a steal and a block and a half a game.
And look at that.
My
look at that.
God.
Second in DPOY already.
Yep.
Second.
You could have Wally Szczerbiak play. You could have either Jordan or Wally Szczerbiak switch, you know what I mean? Play two guard, small forward, one of those. You got a young Terrell Brandon, or not young Terrell Brandon, but Terrell Brandon, who was good for Minnesota. I think he was good in Cleveland and he was good in Minnesota. Smaller guy, not my favorite type of guy, but still. A younger Chauncey Billups, I know this. This is like his weird year in Minnesota. I remember that. This is like a weird period of time for him. But I think
he must get traded soon.
Yeah, he was so Chauncey Billups in his career was like a journeyman for a little bit. He was all over the place. And then after this, he goes to Detroit.
And these teams, it's something to keep in mind is most of these teams we're mentioning are solid teams. They're not the Wizards. And what happened with the Wizards season with MJ is even after he was trying to play through his meniscus, of course he's doing it for free. Of course the proceeds go to 9/11. Of course he's trying to teach the young guys, but his MJ competitiveness kicked in and he's still killing his body trying to make the playoffs. you know? And so it was kind of like that Kobe 2012, 2013 thing in a sense, where he's pushing his body to the point that it's breaking down. But in these scenarios, like with the Timberwolves, with the Nets, you know, with the Blazers, he wouldn't have to do that with any of them. So now he's got kind of like more realistic minutes for like a 38, 39-year-old, and he can kind of preserve himself for the playoffs. And again, Eton Thomas isn't there to fall on his leg either, so that's nice.
If you want my honest opinion, though, I think that we're looking at that through a 2020s lens, though, because I feel like guys weren't thinking like, how can I ease my like workload back then. They were all just trying to play, and also the pace allowed them to play high minutes because it wasn't a high pace.
So
that allowed these guys.
He's not playing with that urgency.
But MJ was definitely pushing himself a little bit, because I remember watching those games.
I don't think there's any universe that he doesn't, though. He's MJ. Can't help himself.
He's still going to be competitive. He's still going to play a lot of minutes, but there's less desperation, is what I'm saying, because they were desperate.
If you're in a really good team, though, Russ, you don't have to go that. You don't have to.
I get what you're saying. Like, they ultimately would have won regardless of whether he did that, but I don't know. Much like Kobe, I don't know if he can help himself.
But even Kobe in 2012 to 2013, like, he never had a stretch where he played 7 straight games where he's playing 48 minutes a game. You know,
yes, he did.
Like,
that was. Oh, are you saying like besides that last?
Besides that was a unique situation where that desperation made him take it even a step further. And so I get what you're saying. He's still, anywhere he goes, my MJ's going to be MJ. He's going to want to play and he's going to exert himself a lot. I just think it's going to be dialed down a little bit, you know, but
dude, I can't stop thinking about Minnesota now. I think that culture would have been perfect. I was just thinking about a story where he, where MJ or Kevin Garnett was talking smack in practice, and he was like screaming at people, and the team was loving it. And I was like, oh man, Jordan in that environment. Yeah. Oh man.
And the thing about this is, I genuinely think, seriously, knowing MJ, these were the most realistic teams he would have played for. And people are saying, oh, you know, you're only saying good teams. And of course, like, if you eliminate the Wizards, he's only playing for good teams. Well, it's not about that. I think if you're not going to make a play at ownership, or, you know, aren't going to try to coach up guys in your own organization, then what would you want to do? You want to go play with your boys. You'd want to have some sort of connection, whether it's coaches or executives or that sort of thing. Because Michael Jordan, like, say what you want about him, you know, and I hate the fact that he, you know, ostracized Charles Barkley and stuff, but MJ cares about loyalty and he cares about his inner circle. And so to me, I don't see Michael Jordan making some kind of comeback and not having that play a heavy role is like playing with one of his guys. And to me, those are the teams, you know?